Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is right here with some more SPTV coverage of the Danny Masterson trial live from Los Angeles. And this morning we got exactly what we expected. Philip Cohen was given 45 more minutes to finish his cross-examination of Jane Doe 1. At precisely the 45-minute mark, while Philip Cohen was in the middle of a sentence, Judge Almedo interrupted him and said, "Thank you, counsel. You can sit down." And that was a glorious moment. The redirect of Jane Doe 1 was very quick. The recross was even faster. Jane Doe 1 was dismissed. It was probably only 10:30 in the morning when Jane Doe 1 was, relieved from her duties on the stand. Philip Cohen then asked to be heard by the judge out of the presence of the jury, out of the presence of Jane Doe 1, and asked for a mistrial and went on and on about how it wouldn't even be possible for him to provide his client an appropriate defense while not being afforded the opportunity to finish his cross-examination, and even specified what questions he wanted to bring Jane Doe 1 back on the stand and ask her. And the judge said, denied, and then proceeded to absolutely eviscerate him for about 15 minutes. Now, guys, I know I take somewhat of a guilty pleasure in seeing the defense team sort of upbraided by the judge. It doesn't have any impact on the trial whatsoever. The jury doesn't see these interactions. It doesn't impact their opinion of one side or another. It just, I don't know. There's just something kind of enjoyable about it. I don't even know how to explain it. But the judge then, for, I don't know, what felt like 15 or 20 minutes, gave him example after example of how he wasted his time and the court's time. And for these reasons, it was within her power to limit the cross-examination. I mean, she literally read examples of him asking 15 questions just to get an answer that would have required one question, and said, "I warned you about this again and again and again, and you continued to do it." And then she said, it's up to you to decide what subjects are important for you to delve into on cross-examination. She goes, "I don't know, if it were me, maybe asking Jane Doe 1 about the 2004 settlement with Danny Masterson might have been more important than asking her so many questions about the temperature of the water in the hot tub. But that's just me. Your strategy is your strategy." And she goes, "I let you go this morning for 45 minutes, and I didn't interrupt you once so that you would have all the time in the world to finish what you needed to finish in the time I told you you had to finish it." Philip Cohen complained that Jane Doe 1 spent 80% of Cohen's time giving non-responsive answers. And anyway, the judge just wasn't having any of it. So I really wondered what was going to happen. I knew, I was under the impression, based on what the prosecution had said, that Claire Headley wouldn't be testifying until after lunch. And yet here we were at 10:30 in the morning. Jane Doe 1 had already been dismissed. I'm thinking, are we going to have like a 2.5-hour lunch? They surprised everyone. They brought in Jane Doe 1's cousin, Rachel, who in about an hour flat was able to finish direct examination, cross-examination, redirect, and recross. And cousin Rachel was a real breath of fresh air up there on the stand. The way she testifies is different than the way that Jane Doe's testify, because she's not as emotionally invested in the experience. For the Jane Doe 1, this is arguably the most horrible thing that ever happened, that they're being forced to relive in front of a group of strangers. To cousin Rachel, it was just testifying about having gone on a family vacation with Jane Doe 1 the day after she was attacked by Danny Masterson, going to a family vacation down in Clearwater, Florida, and testifying to what she saw on Jane Doe 1's body in terms of bruising, what she observed in Jane Doe 1's demeanor as far as trying to cover herself up as much as possible so people wouldn't see her bruising, whether she seemed like emotionally impacted by what had just occurred the previous day. And she was extremely calm in a way that absolutely deflated all of the gotchas that Philip Cohen was trying to hit her with on cross. And it's not like there were a lot of gotchas. It's just that's what Philip Cohen does. He tries to take every little word that you used and make it into a very, very big deal. And Cousin Rachel was amazing, was fantastic. Now, just so it seems like it's not all hate all the time for the defense, I thought Philip Cohen scored his first point in this trial. And I don't even say that because I think it's going to matter for the jury. It was just the first time in this trial that I literally thought, oh, you are good at your job when you have something to work with. And here's what it was. Cousin Rachel testified that the day after the attack, the whole family, like almost 20 people, went on a family vacation to Clearwater. And that to her memory, she was on the vacation for about 5 days. Now, that's interesting because Jane Doe 1 already said 7 to 10 days. I thought it was interesting in a good way that their recollection of how long the vacation was doesn't even match up. I mean, it's just if I was on the jury, I'd be like, well, these two clearly haven't tried very hard to get their stories straight, or they would at least have the same amount of days the vacation lasted. So anyway, Cousin Rachel said about 5 days. And she was asked many times, did you have a conversation with Jane Doe 1 about the bruising you observed? And she said, yes. They said, which night did you have the conversation? She goes, I cannot recall if it was the first night or the second night, but I'm pretty sure it was the first night or the second night. She actually said this many times because every time she was asked this many times, and every time she was asked, that is how she answered the question. There are 2 photos that were taken on this vacation of Jane Doe 1 in a bikini that shows her body and bruising or lack thereof, depending on who you're talking to. And these photos were on display the entire time because they were on display from when Jane Doe 1 was testifying and they were still up there. And at the very end of Cousin Rachel's testimony, Philip Cohen says, the conversation that you had with Jane Doe 1 about her bruising, the first conversation that you had with her about the bruising, was that conversation before or after these photographs were taken? And without hesitation, Cousin Rachel said, I remember it being after the photographs were taken. He said, really? Would you look at the date on those photographs? I was like, uh-oh, what's happening now? And indeed, the date on the photographs is April 30th. And given the dates that we already know the family vacation occurred, April 30th would have been the 5th night that they were on this family vacation. I was like, okay, well, I mean, you expect there to be some inconsistencies in time recollection and date. This isn't a big deal. But I was like, oh, when Philip Cohen has something to work with, he does, in fact, know how to do a good job. Because then that led into other questions like, if you didn't have this conversation with her until night 5, and I'm totally paraphrasing here. If you didn't have the conversation with her until night 5, then it seems that you didn't even notice the bruising until night 5. And then she goes, well, I mean, that's possible. You know, I was on the vacation with my family. Like, she had her own family members there. I wasn't hanging out with Jane Doe 1 during the day. Like, I wasn't there to hang out with Jane Doe 1. There was a large group of people. We were on a vacation. I would spend the day with my family. And then Cohen goes, but if you were spending the day with your family, then you weren't spending the day with Jane Doe. And she goes, that's correct. And he goes, then you have no idea what Jane Doe was doing during the day. And she goes, not with certainty. He goes, you don't know at all. And she's like, yeah, I guess that's right. I guess I don't know at all. And he goes, but you said to the detective that Jane Doe 1 had been, let's say trying to stay in her room as much as possible during the day. And she's like, yeah, that's what I said. And he's like, but you wouldn't have any way of knowing that, would you? And she's like, no, I guess I don't. But you see how I'm saying? So Philip Cohen, when he has something to work with, he did good with it. And yet Cousin Rachel still responded to the cross in a way that still made her immensely believable. She wasn't being argumentative. She wasn't being difficult. She wasn't being evasive. She wasn't being cute. She was just being very forthright, calm and relaxed. And I know if I was on the jury, I would have believed every word that she had to say. And that even if there was a contradiction, that she meant what she said when she said it, and words can, be used carelessly or incorrectly, or memories can, who knows? She was clearly someone that I would have taken as just being a genuine actor. And that's fantastic. I thought her testimony very seriously corroborated what Jane Doe 1's testimony was. And by the way, really the entire purpose of Cousin Rachel's testimony was simply to say that the bruises on Jane Doe 1's body in real life were much darker and apparent than in the photographs that are being shown. It is admittedly hard to clearly and obviously see the bruising on Jane Doe 1's body in the photographs. That's a function of the fact that the photographs are taken at night with a bright flash and there's a lot of washouts. But, if you're the defense attorney, you're not going to, dig into the science of photography. You're going to be like, look, photo, no see bruisey. And yet when Jane Doe 1 was on the stand, she did go hold the photos and say, this is the bruise here and this is the bruise here. The problem is that it's just not obvious. And so that was the function of cousin Rachel's testimony. Let me see if there's anything I'm missing here. I just because, this is what I'm here for. I will tell you, before court started, there was another example of Cohen. He actually asked for a mistrial again, right in the beginning. Right in the beginning, he asked for a mistrial because something happened where these photographs of Jane Doe 1 in a bikini and cousin Rachel is in the photographs as well. Cohen said, I asked for originals of these photos and I was led to believe they didn't exist. And now I'm being told by the DA that Officer Reyes or whoever, I get all the officers mixed up, Officer Reyes is going to be bringing in the originals. And this is unconscionable. Not only are they being brought in the middle of a trial, they're being brought in the middle of cross. This is unheard of. As he was going on and on and on, I'm thinking to myself, this sounds like kind of a big deal. And I guess that's just because Philip Cohen is really good at making everything sound like a big deal. Because once Judge Almeida opened her mouth, oh boy, did everyone's opinion about what Philip Cohen had just said change drastically. She dressed him down right before trial even started, not in the presence of the jury. And she said, Mr. Cohen, you're acting like the DA is introducing photos you've never seen before. In fact, these are the very same photos that have already been introduced into evidence and that you have extensively used in your cross-examination so far. You've been given copies of the photos. You're just complaining that you weren't given the originals. But you're not entitled to the originals because they don't belong to you. You would never be given the original photos. And he goes, Your Honor, I'm not complaining that I wasn't given the original photos. I'm complaining they weren't made available to me for inspection. And she goes, you didn't ask to inspect them. She was, I don't want to overstate it, but there was a point up there where she was basically like, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not exaggerating. She's like, I cannot fathom what your argument is as to how this could injure your case. And it got testy. It got testy. I don't know, guys. Is that just the life of a defense attorney? We haven't seen Sean Hawley interact with Judge Almeida in this way. We have not seen Sean Hawley behave in a disrespectful manner to the judge. And actually, it did get downright disrespectful this morning. So before court started, let me see. Judge Almeida had just given a whole bunch of her thoughts about the photograph issue, and Philip Cohen immediately said, "Well, Your Honor, it was either, well, Your Honor, I agree with one thing the court has said this morning, or, well, Your Honor, the court has gotten one thing right this morning." And as he stood up, she said, "Do not make the comments impugning this court." And he said, "Oh, that wasn't my intention, Your Honor." And she said, "Your statement was very heavily sarcastic." And I'm just thinking to myself, if I'm in the business of defending clients in front of a judge, why do I want to piss off the judge? And this is a question I really probably should ask to my attorney friend, Zach Morgan, the next time we get a chance, is there any part of this that is strategic, or is it just Philip Cohen kind of getting to the end of his rope and feeling like he just doesn't have much to work with? I know pissing off the judge has no impact on the actual outcome of this thing, but it can't possibly help, right? There can't be any benefit to it whatsoever, right? Is it just playing up for his client? Could that possibly be a part of it? I just don't know. I do feel a little silly acting like Philip Cohen, with all my anecdotes, kind of creating this impression that Philip Cohen is just this incompetent buffoon who doesn't know what he's doing, because that's honestly not possible. Like, I don't actually think that of Cohen. It's just, as an amateur, as an observer, I don't know what else to think. It's not that I actually think that's the right conclusion. Do you know what I mean? Okay, let's see. Going over here. Maria de Jesus Gutierrez. Kohl's doesn't open until 4 p.m. That's good, because I think they're open pretty late. I am 100% going to Kohl's to get myself another French dip sandwich, which with the actual dip, by the way, because at Felipe's, I now am under the impression it might be Felipe's, not Felipe's, guys. It's the greatest controversy of the 21st century. At Felipe's, they don't give you a dipping container. They pre-dip the bread. So some people were questioning whether it was really a French dip sandwich. It was. But at Kohl's, I believe they give you the dipping container. So I'll post photos to the community tab, you guys. Don't you worry. Don't you worry about a thing. All right, let's see. Basking in it. Do you think little man Danny Masterson is getting nervous about all of this attention? Well, see, I'm not sure if you're talking about little man David Miscavige or little man Danny Masterson, but either way, I think the answer is yes. By the way, none of Scientology's usual suspects were in the courtroom this morning, to my surprise. No Graham Brewer, no Vicky Podboreski, no Reverend Skip LaRue, no hate blogger from the Stand League. I do expect them to show up this afternoon for Claire Headley, but we shall see. All right, let's see what's next. Victoria Charles, I took PTO to catch up on the videos. This is my first live. Thank you. Oh my God, Victoria, if that's true, that is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. That is awesome. Ubeek, can we get a whoop whoop? Well, you just did. Whoop whoop. There you go. Karen, about you, trying to find you on Venmo or PayPal or Zelle. I'll leave that to Goldie to post some things in the live chat. I don't want to spend too much time talking about that right now, but I do appreciate it. I mean, A Smith-Levin, you can usually find me anywhere on A Smith-Levin. And I assume you're talking about sending, some donations to cover travel expenses, but yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. Denver Stevo, it sounds like the judge and Cohen have somewhat of an adversarial relationship. Is she making it easier for the defense to appeal the verdict if it ends up unfavorable for Danny Boy? Stevo, I know that the way I reenact Almeido's, some of the things that she says, I might be taking a little bit of a liberty with how much emotion that I show. I'm not taking very much liberty with the content. And Judge Almeido's actually very good at shifting gears between being stern and then very carefully going back. It's how I perceive it. And being quite soft-spoken and calm and rational. At no point does Almeido ever seem to be like she's losing control of her emotions. I hope I don't create that impression. And she will, with great patience, read through things that very clearly explain, from a statute perspective, her position on things. I don't think Almeido, through her behavior or whatever, is doing any of this of making it easier on appeal. I think she's actually being quite careful. It's Cohen who's actually degenerated into showing outright disrespect to the court at times. You know what I'm saying? Boy, I actually have to wrap this up in order to make it back to court on time. So let's do this real quick. Super sticker Jane Doerr, thank you. and Kid 25, thank you very, very much. Bargain Baron, such a small Canadian creator here, been addicted to your videos since the Masterson trial. Keep up the good work. AA Run, stop by sometime. Bargain Barons, I will. Hey, shoot me an email at growingupinscientology@gmail.com with a link to your channel, and I'll click on it. Otherwise, there's almost no chance I'm going to remember. Thank you so much. M and Nancy, are they going to be able to appeal with all this BS being entered in on the record? Oh, there's no question Cohen's going to try to appeal. I mean, he's been laying that foundation since day one. No question. And I think the judge totally understands that. Simone Ferran, thank you very much. Guys, I actually have to get the hell out of here. Goddess of TGAC, will we be able to see a complete transcript of Claire's testimony, or can you do a video on it? I think we'd love to hear every minute of it. Tony Ortega does a pretty good job keeping the notes of the testimony. I don't expect him. I expect he shouldn't have any trouble keeping up with Claire's testimony. So you'll be able to see that by the end of the night. Do Foghorn Leghorn again. No, Denver Steve-O, I can't. I got to get out of here. Lori Plays, I wish to God I could be there for Claire today. So proud of her. Yes, indeed. Oh, we got a super sticker. Thank you, Pastor Nance. And that's it, guys. That's all we got. So let me hide the comment. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the update at 4:30. It's going to be absolutely nuts. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right